Donald Trump is panicking as he and his envoys have been ghosted in Qatar. Iran meant what they said. They said they are not showing up to Qatar for further discussions about the Memorandum of Understanding after the United States began striking Iran on Friday and over the weekend in violation of the MOU. And Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said, "How many times did I need to repeat? We are not going there. We have nothing to discuss right now as long as the United States violates the MOU." Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson moments ago said, "We had not planned any meetings with the American side at any level over the next few days. So there isn't even anything for us to cancel. We don't want to go there. We don't want to be around them." What is likely to take place in Doha tomorrow, maybe the U.S. wants to have discussions with the Qatari side, but all we've said in Iran is keep releasing the frozen sanctioned money to us, keep complying, and maybe we'll meet with you in the future. Now, if you take a look at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz and the actual data, there are no ships that are going through that lane that the United States tried to open, which they've referred to as the Omani lane. All of the ships that are leaving the Strait of Hormuz are going through the IRGC route, the Iran route, and there are far less ships coming in than ships leaving. So while Donald Trump and Treasury Secretary Bessent and the Trump regime are clearly manipulating the market, I'm trying to just show what's actually happening. And there's a reason why the crack spreads are so big right now, meaning the price of Brent crude. You know, when you see the price of oils going down, that's the price of Brent crude. It's a kind of futures market, if you will, on the price of crude, like the actual crude from the source. That's different from the refinery prices, the gas that you're getting. And it's why gas prices are still high, because the refiners believe that there's probably a bunch of shenanigans that are going on with the crude pricing to try to bring that down. And now Trump wants the refiners to bring their price down. And while there probably is some price gouging going on, although certainly much more under the Biden administration than right now, the reality is what the reality is in the Strait of Hormuz, despite the markets being manipulated. So you have Doug Burgum, Donald Trump's Interior Secretary. He's now, I guess, one of the main people speaking about this catastrophic and unlawful war and the MOU. Even state regime media Fox is like, yeah, but they're not meeting with you. Like, what's going on here? And watch what Doug Burgum says. Here, play this clip.
He's got all the cards, and the Iranians can try to play it out, but I don't think that's going to work out for them.
But it is working out for them. They are playing for time. It is taking a great deal of time. People ask all the time, why is this dragging on? They're playing for time successfully.
Well, I think, again, when we take a look at the length of conflicts in history, this has been so short compared to others. And President Trump, as he's demonstrated just even a few weeks ago, if they're not willing to negotiate, he can go back to a different approach. Because, again, the key here, having a terror group, having a nuclear weapon, it's not really like a country. It's a terrorist group. Like a terrorist group would use that. And if it'd be the first time in the world history where a terrorist group willing to use a nuclear weapon would have one. President Trump is basically averted World War III.
But I guess the Trump regime plan is to send out a bunch of Truth Social posts. Their policy, it's not a policy at all, I'm being sarcastic, is Donald Trump sends social media posts, and then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, while trying to promote this disastrous Great American Fair that Fox keeps on doing, says, "Did you see Donald Trump's very powerful truth post? Donald Trump told the gas companies, lower your prices now." Okay, weren't these the people who Donald Trump was consulting with about conquering Venezuela. You have to do a truth. These are your buds. These are the people y'all collude with. Watch what Besson says. Play this clip.
We've got a chart of how quickly the prices went up and how they followed crude, and we're going to hold them accountable on the other side. President Trump talked about it the past week. He had a very powerful Truth Social yesterday. So I would encourage all the gasoline retailers. Some of them are owned by big oil. Some are independent. Some are international convenience chains. I would encourage them to be good actors, especially in the 250th anniversary, because we're watching.
Oh, and I guess they and the other oligarch friends aren't giving money for the ballroom anymore. Right? Remember when they promised it's going to be my rich friends and I'm going to buy the ballroom? Yep, Trump is using a $500 million no-bid contract to build the White House ballroom. The secret agreement was routed through a White House office that typically handles repairs and furnishings and is exempt from a competitive bidding requirement. The Washington Post is currently reporting right now. Now, while the Trump regime is getting ghosted in Qatar, Donald Trump received some bad rulings, or good rulings for the constitutional standpoint, rulings that went against some of Donald Trump's fascist positions, and some rulings in favor of Donald Trump. But the big ruling saying that the birthright citizenship provision in the 14th Amendment in the Constitution provides for birthright citizenship was a 6-3 decision by the Supreme Court, although it seemed that 4 of the right-wing justices believe that the Constitution doesn't provide for birthright citizenship, although it was a 6-3 decision in favor of birthright citizenship. Kavanaugh sided with the majority because he just said, I don't believe the Constitution provides for birthright citizenship, but Congress passed a law in the 1950s that Donald Trump wasn't allowed to override by an executive order. So actually a pretty troubling outcome that 4 Supreme Court justices don't abide by the clear text of the Constitution, of what the Constitution is. But here was MAGA Mike Johnson learning about it in real time this morning. Play this clip.
The jurisdiction of the United States and our citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. What's your reaction to that?
Well,
this is real time.
I need to read the opinion, okay? But obviously you could say that's a textualist, originalist view. However, I do think that this has been grossly abused in recent years, okay?
And then MAGA Mike Johnson was asked, while Donald Trump is flailing in the White House today and refusing to sign the housing bill and saying that it's a big yawn and he doesn't care about the housing bill, MAGA Mike Johnson says, look, housing affordability is just a very complicated issue for Donald Trump. Very, very complicated. And I'm sure he doesn't get into all the weeds, but he also knows everything. Here, play this clip.
The president has a lot going on, and I think it's safe to say he's not read through every line of that piece of legislation. It's a lot to it, and a lot of great things, and he and I have spoken about it quite a bit. He understands all the dynamics here, what he was saying, and legislation. But what he was saying is, in comparison to ensuring election integrity, which is now represented by the Save America Act, nothing is as important, because you cannot maintain a constitutional republic unless you have free and fair elections. A government of, by, and for the people is ultimately and foundationally dependent upon that. That's what the president is saying. We all agree with that. And by the way, so do the American people. Now, that's not to say that there are not also incredibly important issues, and the cost of living and affordability is among them. It's top of mind. I've spent 6 hours in the Oval Office just in the last few days. I think 4 hours on Thursday, over 2 hours yesterday. We talked about all this in great length. The president certainly understands the importance of affordable housing. As he's noted yesterday, he knows as much about housing as anybody, because that, in many respects, was part of his portfolio and career.
Now, the humiliation ritual for the Trump regime continues, and frankly, the humiliation ritual for all of us. Outside of the White House in the Washington, D.C. mall, you still have that great American fair, state fair, that Donald Trump absolutely destroyed. Today's main attraction, you have Michael Knowles, this kind of right-wing MAGA propagandist, debating a 10-year-old girl in a MAGA hat about Salem witch trials in front of maybe 12 people. And the argument from Knowles, and again, he's like an ultra MAGA guy, the one area where the Salem witch trials went a little too far is, I would say, they weren't organized enough. They had random judges burning these ladies. I don't know if they were guilty or not. That's what's going on in the Washington Mall right now, justifying the Salem witch trials, but saying the issue was some random judges. But we don't know. It's possible they really were witches, those women, those girls. Here, play this clip.
But the one area where the Salem witch trials went a little far is, I would say, they weren't organized enough. So you had these like random judges, kind of burning these ladies. I don't know if they were guilty or not, but I think if it were more formalized, built up a little bit more, maybe with like a grand inquisitor or something, that would have been a better way to do it. I am so impressed.
By the way, he's doing this debate with a little 10-year-old girl right here. What in saying that girls should be burned in the Salem witch trials? Just take a look at the crowd. Madeline Pelt's got a good view of the crowd right here. Let's play it.
Yes. Why?
Baseball.
And then, as Donald Trump and his regime are getting ghosted in Qatar, they send their propagandists out there to attack Canada. Yeah, blame Canada, right out of the South Park playbook. Blame Canada. And now you have this MAGA Republican Congress member, Michael Guest, saying, a real big national security threat right now is that the Canadians are letting in North Korean spies and Iranians into the United States. And so Canada poses a massive security risk. Here, listen to what he says. Let's play this clip.
We see a larger percentage of individuals who are watch listed or apprehended coming into the country through the northern border. And so we see that many of the individuals apprehended at the northern border are not from our hemisphere. Many are from adversarial nations, China, North Korea, Iran, countries that do not share the same values that we do in America. And so that is why it is important that we remain focused again on what is happening also on the northern border, because it presents a different set of challenges to our Border Patrol. Again, a much larger area to patrol. We don't have the barriers, and we have been having it at times to pull staff from the northern border to do interior enforcement. So it's important that we return staff to the border so that we can adequately secure our northern border.
Treasury Secretary Bessent says, ignore what's happening in Qatar. Things are going great. And actually, during the war, business was booming here. The American people are doing great. Watch what Bessent says. Let's play it.
During the Iran conflict, the U.S. economy powered through it. The economy has been very strong. We've been creating about 170,000 jobs a month during the conflict. And I wouldn't be surprised, I haven't seen the number, if this month's job number is very strong. And more importantly, I don't think we're going to get one of these big revisions like we've had the past 2 years when they said, we didn't mean it.
Just a second. What about the?
Then you had Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, after lying about the catastrophic and unlawful war. He then goes and starts lying with Fox about a 350-foot slice in the reflecting pool and that it was criminally caused algae. And they say, we've arrested all of these people. Where are the people that you've arrested? I mean, it's the dumbest lie, but it's deeply dangerous because it shows you they're just willing to lie about everything. When they lie about this, they lie about Manab and the war crimes they've engaged in, where they've killed hundreds and thousands of children in Iran. When they're willing to lie about this, they're willing to lie about the justification for getting the United States into catastrophic war. When they're willing to lie about a reflecting pool being sliced up by vandals who don't exist and they've never showed any evidence of any of this, they are easily willing to lie about the economy and all of the data that's out. They're willing to lie about everything, and they do. Here's what Burgum says. Let's play this clip.
We were talking during the commercial break about the vandalism at the reflecting pool. I know you have vowed to go after anybody who was vandalized. There was that 350-foot slice. What do we know about it? What's the latest? And do we have cameras up? We have 7 people arrested.
Well, we definitely have more cameras now than before because I guess we'd say it's unthinkable. This reflecting pool has been there since 1922. It is literally part of the Lincoln Memorial. Mm-hmm. And so while some people may think it's cute or interesting to vandalize that, it's no different than if you walked up into the Lincoln Memorial and threw red paint on Lincoln statue itself. I mean, you're vandalizing a national monument. Mm-hmm. We take that very seriously. And of course, the U.S. Park Police, part of the Department of Interior, all of our great National Guardsmen. I was out last night, late into the night last night, meeting with National Guardsmen from around the country. They're teamed up with the U.S. Park Police to make sure we've got safe and secure
real quick,
holiday.
Teddy Roosevelt Museum.
And then you had, again, in an obvious effort to try to further provoke Iran, you had Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, show up in southern Lebanon as though he's Netanyahu the conqueror, and he shows up in Lebanese territory, and he walks around after Israel Katz, that's the name of the defense minister, says, "We're never leaving Lebanon. We're not leaving Syria. We're not leaving Gaza," as Netanyahu says, "There will never be a two-state solution." And the goal here, and Netanyahu says it, is that we want our Lebanon MOU to destroy the Iran MOU. Iran will never have a role in the future of Lebanon at all. And if you look at the Iran MOU that J.D. Vance entered into and the talks in Switzerland, it says the exact opposite. I'll leave you with this. System of a Down's Serge Tonkian said the following message to Netanyahu's government. Here, play this clip.
For many years, Israel's government used AIPAC to lobby the U.S. Congress to not recognize the Armenian genocide, to prevent Congress from recognizing the Armenian genocide, due to their relationship with Turkey, their intelligence sharing with Turkey, etc. Today, the Netanyahu cabinet decided to recognize the Armenian genocide of 1915, a genocide that led to Hitler thinking that he could do what he could do to the Jews in the 1930s and 40s. The fact that this government is already committing genocide in Gaza and Lebanon, decided to recognize the genocide of my grandparents, is the worst fucking thing that they could have done to Armenians by using our history, our genocide, our pain to their political advantage. Fuck you.
Yep, and this just in. Donald Trump is bragging that the Supreme Court, one of the rulings by the Supreme Court, took restrictions off political spending. A big win for Republicans, and more importantly, the First Amendment going off of the Citizens United case. The United States Supreme Court ruled that there can be a lot more coordination between political committees and individuals. And so while there may be campaign finance caps on individual donations, there's an easy way to get around it. Just tell the individual, okay, how much money you want? Okay, I'm going to give it to this political committee, then they'll give you, and we can coordinate all of this because corporations have a First Amendment right to infect our politics with as much money as they want. And the billionaires and trillionaires get to buy their politicians. That's just what the First Amendment said. By the way, the fact that Trump is putting it in there, that's a big win for the Republicans or a big win for America, that the trillionaires and billionaires can further infect our politics with all of this money. I mean, seriously? That's what they're cheering. They're cheering that on, that political candidates are bought and sold like that. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.